Hey guys, welcome to session 4. Let me move my video camera. Okay, moving my video camera window out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to kind of click through the session module and talk about it a little bit. In session 4, we're going to be focusing on stakeholders and thinking about, and so most of you, actually I've read everybody's part 1, and I think everybody is focusing on a K-12 environment. Sometimes people focus on other environments, but this semester everybody's doing K-12. And so what we're really concerned with is the main stakeholder group that everybody has in common is the teacher stakeholder group. And they really are, they really do drive what takes place in a classroom more than anybody else. A lot of other groups, people, mandates, policies, rules, learning objectives, all of these things do impact what happens in the classroom, but it's that teacher who enacts what happens in that classroom. And so we're going to focus on CBAM, the concerns-based adoption model, in this session. You're going to learn a little bit about that. It has 3 main areas. I'm going to open up the notes and explanatory document. And inside of this document, if you go into on the session 4 activities page, there's this notes and explanatory videos on CBAM. I've embedded the first video in the module, so just to make it look good and attract you, so you'll click play and you'll start watching it. But so you want to watch that intro video, and then there's 3 videos that kind of drill down into the 3 main areas of CBAM, which is again the concerns-based adoption model. There's a video on stages of concern that deals with teachers' affect, or how they feel about the innovation as it's during the various stages of its implementation. And so there are ways that you can actually diagnose how they feel and actually use that to do better implementation, do better diffusion. So that's stages of concern. And then levels of use and innovation configurations get at how the teachers are using it, using this innovation, and in what configuration. So that's about the actual what you can see basically. How the teacher's behaving with that innovation in their classroom and how they're using it. So those 2 videos and the resources that go with them will help you diagnose those kinds of things. So you could, in effect, you could use these tools to study the innovation across these 3 dimensions of innovation configuration, level of use, and stages of concern. You don't necessarily, like in your plan that you're going to do for the final part of your diffusion plan, you don't have to go into detail about how you're using the concerns-based adoption model, but I think there's a lot here that you may find useful. And some environments, this is not going to be appropriate. It's going to be too intrusive in the work that teachers are doing. But you may find pieces of this, or all of it, depending on your environment, to be very useful, especially if you are working in an administrative role and you're expected to really move a group of teachers from point A to point B. This is a potentially good tool set that's been around for decades now, and it's been refined over decades. I think there's some good stuff here. So again, we're focusing on kind of trying to help the teacher change. CBAM is a good model to explore. In addition, there are a couple articles. We've got Ertmer and Ottenbreit-Leftwich's 2010 article on teacher technology change. I'm going to click that and open it. And this one will go into looking at the teacher as a variable of change and looking at teacher knowledge, teacher self-efficacy, teacher pedagogical beliefs, and subject and school culture. And it talks about how that teacher is so integral to changing what you want to have done in a school. Even if you have all the technology in the world, you have the learning environment is ready to go. It is ready to be a learner-centered environment. It's ready to be authentic, real world, hands-on, all of these things. It's probably not going to be if that teacher's not on board and they don't have the skills and sort of that mindset that they need in order to enact that sort of pedagogy in their classroom. So Ertmer does lots of work in this area. She's been studying this for quite a while. She pops up in most of my literature reviews for the stuff that I write about. She's great. The other article is, so the Ertmer article, it's not so much about a study, but it's like a literature review of lots of different studies in this area. And then the second one, On and Reigeluth, that's actually a study, but you know, any study has to, when you introduce a study, you also introduce the literature that backs up that study. So there's a lot you can learn about what other people have been doing in this area as well. So in On and Reigeluth's study, they actually they surveyed 100 plus teachers, and from that they come up with some principles, like in their discussion at the bottom of the article, they come up with some discussion items that will help people that are trying to help teachers change. You know, try to help support those teachers in their classrooms. You understand how their beliefs and the way they see the world, how those things intersect with also the barriers that they have in teaching. So 2 really good, insightful articles. Again, we're looking at helping the teachers move from A to B. So in terms of activity, there's 2 things. One is you and your team should be working on part 2 of the major project, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other thing is an individual assignment. It's to make, you can make any kind of Web 2.0 or multimedia artifact. You know, it says video or Prezi. You can do a video or a Prezi. You don't have to do those. Really, anything you want to get better at, some kind of multimedia demonstration tool, have at it. So in this project, in this individual project, you're going to be teaching us about first order and second order barriers in relation to creating tech-enhanced, learner-centered classrooms, and then how we can overcome those. So you're going to share it in a discussion board and check out at least one. Let's see what I say here. I don't want to misguide you. Take a look at 2 classmates' projects and provide constructive feedback to them on their presentation. So just, make a few remarks about what they've shared. So you're going to share it in a discussion board, but you're also going to submit it to the Dropbox so I can grade it. Okay? So it's 2 submissions. And then in terms of part 2 of the technology integration project, let me pull this course plan over here. So I'm making this video on Monday, June 27th, which is the very beginning of session 4. So you have all of session 4 and session 5 to do this project, and I'm opening up my calendar. I'm going to see how many weeks this is. I could do the math, but I'm going to count visually so I don't make a mistake. So part 2 of the project is where so part 1 you examined a context, you chose a context, you examined it to an extent, you wrote about it, and you picked an innovation that you want to introduce in that context, hopefully to address some kind of instructional problem or challenge or need that people in that context, stakeholders in that context have. So part 2 is about drilling down into that context a little more. You've looked at some superficial data. I know you probably feel like you've looked at not so superficial data, but you're going to go a little further now. You're going to interview folks that are in the one second. Let me count on the calendar the weeks while I've got some noise in the background. Okay, so we are June 27. So you have 3 weeks before this part 2 is due, don't you? Sorry. Wasting your time. Yeah. You have 3 weeks to work on part 2, which is good. So in part 2, again, you're interviewing people. That's the main source of data. And what you want to do is you want to figure out what stakeholders think about this innovation. So you want to do this thing. You want to diffuse this innovation in this context. Well, maybe it's not such a good idea. So now you're going to go explore, and you're going to talk to the people who are going to have to actually enact it, the stakeholders that are going to have to support it, enact it, work with it. Go learn what are the kind of questions you want to know from them. Do they know anything about this innovation? How do they feel about it? But first, before you do part 2, make sure you go through the CBAM, go through all of the stuff that's in this current module, because I think that it will give you some really good ideas for the types of things you want to look for, so the ways that you can help folks in your plan, when you create your plan in part 3, for how you're going to diffuse. Well, the CBAM stuff that you learn about and stuff that's in the Ertmer article and the On and Reigeluth article will be helpful for you thinking about the kinds of things, the concerns that stakeholders will have. I do have a tips for part 2 page. It's extensive, isn't it? I have created a video talk through of the entire page, but I've also typed up everything as well. And maybe these suggestions will help you. You don't have to show all this work. You don't have to show me an interview guide, an interview summary, a transcript. You don't have to show me all the steps of your analysis and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm going to want is the final write-up and synthesis. But what I do suggest is that you do create an interview guide, and you do have some kind of summary transcript for your classmate, your partner in your group, and that you do have some kind of transparent way to analyze your data. And I try to provide you examples and resources, book chapters that teach you about qualitative data collection. This is a technique, the techniques that you begin practicing here will be useful to you throughout this program, and definitely if in the program evaluation course you end up actually doing a program evaluation, that kind of sometimes varies whether you actually do a program evaluation or you just almost do one. But you know, a lot of the time we have students actually do something. Interview techniques are great. Very useful. If you think you're going to go on and get a doctorate, I urge you to throw yourself into this and, you know, develop your skills further wherever you're at. Some of you, maybe you've already done interview before. Maybe you already know how to do this. Well, you can get better at it. Maybe some of you have never done it before. It might seem kind of overwhelming. It's really not that overwhelming. It's really about, as you know, coming up with some thoughtful questions, figuring out what you want to know, and then having a conversation with people and trying to record it to some extent. You could actually use technology to record interviews. You do want to tell people if you're going to do that. I don't want to over-explain this because it is already thoroughly explained on this page. But you know, if you don't record them with technology, you can at least you know, use cell phone and, you know, your hands-free microphone and take notes, take extensive notes throughout the interview, and then type it up, share it with your group mates so that they know what you learned, and then everybody has the data. And then you just try to make meaning out of it. You try to find what are the patterns, what is this saying, and that's what you're going to be presenting to me. All right, guys, so that's session, this is session 4. Now, the part 2 is not due at the end of session 4. Always look at the course plan for the big picture view of what is actually due. What's due at the end of session 4? Just the video presentation. That will be due July 3rd. That's the end of the week on Sunday. So try to make some headway, though, with your group in the part 2, because then you have just 2 more weeks after that to get it done. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I look forward to interacting with you online.